welcome to the weekly market roundup for the UK. The date is Sunday, 10th of January. I'm Abdul Hamid, the founder of pivotinvestor.com. So today we're going to go through the broader market, the FTSE 100, how it's performed over the last week and what we anticipate for the next week, and some key levels for it. We'll then go over some of the selected top and worst performers for the week. And finally, we'll head over to pivotinvestor.com to perform a pivot scan to see if we can find some potential opportunities for the upcoming week. So first we'll head over to the broader market, the FTSE 100. What we're looking at here is the weekly chart. And yes, solid performance for the week, up 7% or 453 points from the open at the beginning of the week. So as you can see here, so these lines over here are the yearly pivot, standard floor pivot values, and they'll, as you can see here, last year they gave us pretty accurate support and resistance lines that we could have used as a guide. So this week, up, closing way above the highs of the last few months, and we're just approaching here this blue line, the 200 period moving average, which is just over here, just over 7,000. So 7,000 will definitely be a key level. Now the first target point potentially be the previous year high. So I'm going to mark that over here, around 7691. If of course it can get above and close beyond the 200-day moving average, 200 period moving average rather, close above it. If it holds price there, can anticipate it try and head up to the previous year high, and then to the R1 pivot, which is currently at 7847. So there's some key levels to watch longer term through the year. On a shorter time period, if I head over to the daily chart, you can see here the FTSE opening up on Monday, initial resistance at the R1 pivot, but then on second attempt really breaking through that and finding some resistance at the R2 pivot, but again on Friday managing to close above it. So these are the monthly pivots that we've got plotted over here on the daily chart. So I'm anticipating here, if we can hold this 6,890, price can manage to stay up over here, expecting another retest at 6,965 with a weekly target perhaps of 7,100. So that's the upcoming week. So we'll see how that pans out. Now the selected top and worst performers this week. So this week, Versarion, which if you follow us on Twitter, you would have seen we had to call this out a few weeks ago at around 40 something pence. Well, this week it really went up 36.1%. We'll have a look at the chart for that in a moment. Touchstone Exploration up 33%, and we had Enquest up 22%. Let's just quickly head over to the charts to have a look at those. Now Versarion, let's go back here first to the weekly chart. Had been in this channel for quite a while, best part of last year, to be honest, after the sell-off from the beginning of the year. And this week we saw a huge week with volume breaking to the top of the channel. It's just outside of that channel at the moment, closing also above the yearly central pivot over here at 50 pence as well. So this definitely looks like there's more potential upside for it. The 200 period moving average is at around 75 pence, with the yearly R1 floor pivot at 79 pence. So definitely some longer term move potential there. If I just switch over to the daily chart, you can see that break through that channel above here, and 60 pence, 65 pence potential targets for the rest of the month at least. But for longer term, again, even if it does retrace back to 50 over here, but hold 50, the central pivot, and move higher again, the good target to try and get the 79 pence level over there. So you can see here the previous channel it's in, when to find, develop a new range over here, then potentially head back over here, which will be probably the next point at which we monitor Versarian. Touchstone exploration, huge week, 33%, and it's been trending higher ever since March of last year. So no stopping it, and that movement's continued through this year, first week of this year as well. Now in terms of levels, price levels, if we get a continuation over here, the next price to look out for is 204. It's currently at 168. So 204 the next target if it manages to hold above 165. So we'll see how that develops. And finally, Enquest, again on volume, big move, closing above the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, way above the highs of the last 6 weeks, closing at the high over here at around 1380. Next level over here from a yearly pivot perspective is 16 pence, and we've also got a bit of this gap over here at around 17.8. So this continuation, we're looking for 16 pence. I'll just switch over to the daily chart. Its daily chart has also crossed above the 200-day moving average during the week, and it's continuing higher. May see a little bit movement up for a retrace, but any retrace movement up is a buying opportunity for Enquest there. Now in terms of the week's worst performers, or selected worst performers, got STX Shield Therapeutics down 13.3%, Restore down 9.2%, and Plus 500 down just shy of 5%. We'll just quickly have a look at the charts for that. So we've got Shield Therapeutics. Let's switch over to the weekly chart. So continuing this downward price action in the new year. Good. There's also some support from the previous year at this level around here. So have to monitor price action to see how it handles this price area over here. Potentially, if it retests the 39, perhaps it does look like there's more downward pressure if it takes out this low from a couple of weeks ago. The low over here was 53. If there's another retest of 53 and it holds, potentially we might see a retracement. If it fails, we could see ourselves going back down to 39. I'll just switch over to the daily chart. Again, just seeing that previous low there for 53. and price holding there for now, but if it doesn't, the initial level definitely 41. We'll see how price potentially behaves when it gets there. Restore it's previously crossed over the 200-day moving average here on the daily chart. Here still looks like a potentially a pullback here from this breakout of this channel that was in. Has gone fairly deep into it, but it is on the monthly S1 pivot. See how price action unfolds, but if it does find price moving back above 379 over here, we could potentially see a retest of last year's, or at least the December high of 413. Otherwise, potentially we could look for a buying opportunity down at 350. 350 is down the bottom of that channel over there. So that's restore, and then we've got plus 500. Let's go over to the weekly chart, and this has been in a strong uptrend, crossing the 200 period moving average since April 2019. It's been projecting and moving up around the R1 yearly pivot last year. A bit of a tail off over here. Could see price come down potentially further. Potentially to find support potentially at 1250, around the 1250 level. On a daily chart, sitting right on that 200-day moving average. So any test again of this low could take, maybe it's even temporary, take us down temporarily to 326. And if it holds for them to return above the 200-day moving average and close above it, would be a potential buying opportunity to continue this trend up. So some levels potentially to look out there for plus 500. So now we'll go over to pivotinvestor.com, and we'll do a market scan, see if we can find any potential opportunities for the upcoming week. So I'm just going to log it here, go to new scan. We're still, by the way, providing our free 7-day trial for those of you who are interested to register, give this a go. So I'm just going to select the FTSE market, and I'm just going to select this week's price period, use that as our range to see if there's any yearly floor pivots that have come into range in the last week. So here we're looking for last week's price ranges to see if they have crossed any of the yearly floor pivots. Now I always get excited in the new year because we've got the new pivot levels that are calculated for the year, which give us fantastic potential support and resistance levels that we can use as a structure for our trading throughout the year. So there's 222 matches found. I'm just going to head over to the detailed view and just narrow some of these matches down have a look at any stocks with at least a million volume. And the dark blue highlights over here indicate that the price crossed that particular pivot level. So the central pivot on ADM Energy, for example, is at 513. You can see over here, it's crossed it, but it's also closed above it. And that's what the dark blue highlight indicates, whereas the red indicates that the price crossed the pivot line, but then failed to close above it, but rather closed below it, hence it's red. So here you can see a number of stocks that have crossed the pivot lines, the yearly pivot values. Argo Blockchain had a great week. Huge price, literally smashed through all the monthly pivots and the yearly ones as well, finding resistance at all the way up at 130. This was another one, incidentally, we called out on our Twitter account back at 11 pence. But yeah, back then I only had a target of 14 pence. Didn't think it was going to go that far. Okay, so yes, back to this. So looking at volumes, also the price action over here. I'm just going to switch that down to have a look at the new stocks that are making the new highs over here. Got first group, Marstons. So let's have a look at the first group. This is a daily chart, actually. So you can see over here the pivot values in the daily chart. These are the monthly pivots. If I flick over here now to the weekly chart, you can see over here price continues to go up, and here's the yearly pivot, central pivot at 77. Price did go below it, and then it's made this, rejected the lower values over here to close way above much of the price action in the previous year, above the central pivot. So now the next level above is up at 130. So if we get price holding above 77, testing the high over here of 81 and holding, we could look to target over the next few months price 130. So it's one to watch. Marstons, another one with a new high. Trending nicely upwards over the last few months. Hasn't quite had a good week, closing above the monthly central pivot, above the previous, just above the previous month's high as well, approaching the next monthly pivot at 83. So it looks good. And on the weekly chart, we're seeing a close there, similar to first group, close above the pivot over here, way above the previous few months' highs, and about 130 as an initial target over the next few months potentially, if price manages to hold and stay above the 74-75 pence level over there. So we'll keep an eye on that one. I'll just add that to the list. Let's have a look at one more perhaps. 2 pull. There we go, look at Taylor Wimpey. House builders and property market seems to be in favour at the moment. Seeing at the moment on a daily chart, it's in a bit of a channel over here, 169, 7170 level. Switch over to the weekly chart. You can see over here, price did initially go lower. Hasn't closed over the previous week's highs over here. So ideally, would like to see it price push higher above 176 and stay above 167. Push and close higher above 176, 177, and that would give us a target of around 236, which also incidentally lines up with the previous year high as well. So that'll be our target going into the next few months. It's already in the watch list, so one to watch going forward. Well, as you can see, a number of others that we could potentially spend a lot more time looking at. I'm going to call it a day there. I hope you enjoyed the weekly market roundup this week. Do visit us on www.pivotinvestor.com. Follow us on Twitter. Twitter handle is @pivotinvestor. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel too. There's also a US edition of the weekly market roundup, so look out for that if you also follow the US market. Thanks again, and hope to see you again soon.